Welcome back, everyone, to Tarot Journeys with Guy. How's everybody doing today? So here we are, getting close to the end of our solar year, getting into that solstice period, leading into Christmas. And yeah, it's a time where, especially for me, it's like a recap of the year, right? And so we've seen so much happen this year. It's wow, it's overwhelming, actually. And you know, it's been an incredible learning lesson, let's say. I think that's a nice way of putting it. Yeah, it's an awakening lesson. We've been put through the quickening of the awakening of humanity. And it's quite amazing, actually, especially when you look at it like that. So we had this last week, a little bit of pre-programming and priming of the populace with a couple of releases. One was a release on Netflix, a movie called Leaving the World Behind, and produced by the Obamas, our favorite deep state bad actors. And amazing. And it's about a cyber attack that downs the internet and creates a societal collapse. And there's a lot of racial division in this movie, and yeah, it's part of the script. And then simultaneously, I think maybe the day after that got released, or 2 days after, a trailer for a movie called Civil War came out. That movie will be released in April of 2024, but it's quite literally about a civil war in the United States. And that's what I'm saying. It's a little bit of a psyop. This is part of the information war. This is how they prime people, right? This is how they acclimatize the populace to a false flag event or an event that they're going to trigger. Last year, or at the beginning of this year, I guess, there was the train derailment in Palestine, Ohio. 6 months before that, the movie White Noise was released on Netflix, which is about a train derailment. It was shot in the exact same town. So I'm not sure if the movie is about the same town or not, but about this toxic gas being released, and this is exactly what happened. And we saw the same thing like in France with another movie called Athena that was released on Netflix, right? So this is how propaganda works. This is how they utilize some of that. And yeah, and so I mean, there's been so much going on as far as like geopolitically, but yet truly, I think that in some ways is their way of running cover in implementing some of the measures that this global apparatus, these globalists, are trying to implement. And I mean, as they get caught, we've seen throughout this whole year, as it becomes exposed and people are talking about this, and verifiable information comes out on various levels, the deep state start to panic, and they start to look more and more maniacal and more dictatorial and more psychotic, essentially. And so, and I mean, it's clear across the board. So, I mean, my concern has a lot to do with awareness and the psyche. So I'm always kind of interested in what they're presenting and what they're projecting. Same thing, Tucker Carlson had an interview with, what's his name, David Gersh, the current whistleblower who supposedly worked in the Air Force, the U.S. Air Force, and claiming that the United States has a retrieval program, and in their possession is crashed UFOs, or what they term as UAPs. And what he also was saying is biologics, like biological samples that are non-human. So, and it's part of the Psy war. In some ways, it's there to distract. In some ways, there is a soft disclosure taking place, right? And in the other way, it's there as a ruse to throw us completely off of what they're actually doing, right? And so a little bit of truth added in with the disinformation that they push out, and it's sometimes effective. Now, has only been effective if they censor people, if they shut down the discourse and people questioning it. And this is essentially what they're attempting to do still, right? Underneath the guise of everything. Yeah, the United States went ballistic in warning, basically threatening the populace that if they don't get the money for Ukraine, there's going to be a war with Russia, which they've been pushing for years. So, it's just like shows you the escalation. Alex Jones got reinstated, which was kind of a big deal in some circles, but it's it's just another part of the information war. And funny, his thing is called InfoWars. And it's just, with everything that's taking place right now, we have to take it all with a grain of salt and be a little bit suspect with a lot of what is being presented on the screen, right? And because meanwhile, we have real life. There's things, all of the things that we're talking about, they're manifesting all around us. And those issues aren't going to get better until people are proactive in all the ways that they need to be. Now, spiritually, it all comes down to awareness. It all is awareness. It all comes from awareness, if you want to look at it that way. So, in that, and that's why it's necessary for us to sort of continue to do what we're doing, but it's to maintain this positive vision of where humanity is going. Yeah, and I think that's really what it is. It's about this continuation, right? It's about us having that future for our children, that future for our grandkids, that future for ourselves. That is the future. The future is right now. And so that's key, and I've talked about this, since I started this channel. That's essentially a lot of what I've been speaking on, right? So interesting, for me, it's this recap period, right? So especially this year, there's so much has taken place. Like, it's profound, especially like as far as like politically and in the world, geopolitically and socially and culturally and everything. Like, it's probably been one of the most intense years for humanity, for me in my lifetime, for many of us, right? I mean, 2020 was wild, okay? I mean, it's been wild since Trump got into office, really. And it is preparing us for the next year, because the next year is potentially going to be wilder. But it also could be could be very positive. There could be amazing things that happen, and there will be, right? Just as there's been amazing things happen this year, and a whole bunch of not so amazing things. So, okay, let's see. All right, so past, present, future. Spiritual impulse, or the spiritual lesson, and the earthly lesson, or what our foundations are, okay? That's that bottom card there. And then these cards kind of act as advice or help us understand what these cards are communicating. And this I lay out to tell me a story. Okay, so what we've got right in the middle, and it is kind of a recap. This is a big lesson. What we learned in this whole year was the underbelly, the absolute, like everything that is underneath. Because the moon represents the occult. It represents what is hidden. Okay, it's a very transformative card too, though. Okay, there's a lot of different meanings, because it's also it's like our intuitive process. It's our inner workings, okay? But it really is, like, especially when we're talking like this, it's about what is inward comes forward, right? And we were shown what was occult, what has been hidden, their plans, the infrastructure of how the deep state, how these globalists operate. They expose themselves. They all came out to come together to fulfill their agenda. And I mean, many things like the World Health Organization, the United Nations, and NATO, and things like this, that they were already there. the IMF, but these are all globalist organizations. But it was like the World Economic Forum and the intelligence communities and big tech and corporate entities and non-government organizations and charitable groups and private interests coalescing to censor people, to monitor people, to influence. That was one thing. The other thing was the blackmail ring. This is what's been a big drive of exposing these guys, is how they get into positions of power and what is used to control them and to keep them there. And it is through blackmail, and it's through this decrepit behavior, which we all know about now, which they've been trying to debunk. And it's like, bam, that's what Epstein and all of them, and this is the talk of the flight log, right? So yeah, and like using people and getting these sick people that have no moral content, that will pretty much do anything to be in that position, right? And so that was a part of it. The human trafficking aspect of it too came out. Oh man, so much stuff. The vaccines, the all of the stuff that came around that, the climate agenda, and the green technology and the green industry and how it's failing and how like it's being exposed. Joe Biden, holy cow, right? The lies around the Trump thing, around the Trump, indicting Trump and trying to incriminate him, and they're still doing it, right? That's what I'm saying. Oh man, the lines that are drawn to Ukraine, right? This thing with Israel, like, holy cow. We've never had all of this stuff come out at once. The World Economic Forum, this is another one. This guy basically coming out and saying, like, yeah, we're resetting this place. You're going to eat bugs. You're not going to have anything. We're taking it all. It's a socialist, communist takeover. You know, they basically admitted that they're implementing a depopulation program, that humans are bad. And there's so much more, right? That this is really what we've been exposed to. This is what's been shown to us. How much our mental state is influenced is essentially because this card here, the Queen of Swords, she represents, because when she's in the right side up, she's very balanced between her intellectual and her emotional intuitive state. Okay. In fact, when she's in the right position, she understands that the greater part of mind is not the intellect, that the greater part of mind, the access to that is through the intuition, but yet intellect and intuition need to be in balance. And so we've seen this. This is part of the whole thing, is to throw people off, is to divide, right? But it's also to shut us down, and to cloud our thinking, to cloud the way we see the world, so that they can get away with it, all this stuff, right? One of the things that I really realized was that a lot of what we're experiencing and have been for the last few months, I mean, that's kind of what COVID and the things that we saw with COVID, partly it had to do with. Part of their plan was to shut us down completely before now. And we were supposed to be in a rung of lockdowns. Okay. Climate crisis was really on the agenda, and so much has been exposed. Okay. So much so that enough people can see it, right? Basically, like how they have declared war against us. And when I say they, I mean the globalists. And truly, there is such a small number of them that are actually in positions of power and control, and are deciding things. All the rest are just pawns, or just foot soldiers in a lot of ways. And even the people that we're seeing, okay? We've been exposed to certain things, like where certain people have switched sides, and now they're speaking on our behalf. And we know, I've talked a lot about certain ones, but there's been many of them. And it's a bit daunting, but we're being shown how this is happening. How at one time these guys over here were saying this, but then have come clean, or have switched over in some way, shape, or form, right? So that, that's been a really big thing. I think too, a huge deal has been for the year has been kind of a vindicating of Trump in some ways, exposing what they've been doing specifically to him, but it's helping vindicate his agenda, his plans for presidency, I guess. We're starting to see how there is this big divide. It's like that simple. The other thing too, I think what we're seeing, I think Israel really shows us that, but I mean, Ukraine was the same thing. All the war actions are like this. These deep state globalists, they have their hands in every area where they've created the situation on all fronts. They've all coalesced, like, to differentiate like one intelligence agency from the other now, I think is foolish. I think they're all coalesced into one sort of organization in a way. I mean, yes, I get it, it's compartmentalized, but this is what they're doing. They've got their hands in everything. But yet it really relied on the fact that people would not see them doing it, that they would believe the lies, right? This is kind of what the lie has been exposed in some ways, okay? And I guess too, it's like also exposing like Joe Biden, like the president, and some of our world leaders in general, how false they are, okay? Open invasion of the borders, this sort of illegal immigration kind of thing, and attempting to replace the population, it's been totally exposed. They've admitted it, right? Now they're trying to like pass laws in New York to get to allow illegals to vote. And there was another congressman or a senator or somebody talking about how they should put them in the army, give them the opportunity to become legal citizens, but you got to go and do a tour in the army. It's like, whoa, unreal. They need their tax base. They need their people that are going to pretty much accept them. But man, they've been trying to debunk that one for a long time, like the open border thing. And now it's obvious. And some of them are switching, they're turning they're changing their tune, right? But that's, it's been part of the plan. It's really on purpose. And that's what we've seen. Yeah. And this is like us going into the new year. And it's so funny, like this card here, like the temperance card, like this is our guidance. Okay. We're being guided from the angelic realm, from source. We're being guided to move with the times, and we're being shown the way. We're being shown what to do, and we're being looked after. And there's really no need to worry in some ways, because there's enough of us that have sort of been tuned into this. We have to maintain. We can't sit back and rest on our laurels. Some of us have to act. We have to speak out and act and do the things that we do, and we got to take part in this world, right? But it's this thing of we need to encourage this thing of like, yes, we're gonna get past this. Like this year, even though it might be tough, is also going to be one that's going to energize us, right? And it's like taking the waters from last year and putting it into next year. So taking this lesson from what we've learned through the whole year and put it forward, right? The UFO thing was another deal that was exposed. I don't know, keeps popping in my mind, all the things that came up. So much stuff that happened, right? Anyway, so the cups, right? And the heart, motivated by like what is in the heart. That's what we've really have had to deal with in this year is the trials of the heart. Because it's full activation. We're moving towards like a full sort of, or a period of activation. I don't want to get into this thing of like, whoa, because this is what happens with humanity. We go through cycles, we go through periods, right? Where there is full activity, and then things come to rest and we become sort of activated again, right? But yeah, many of us are going to feel really activated in the new year. Right? So you got to keep in mind, I really do see the solstice and the Christmas period as the end and the beginning of the year. And I don't really celebrate New Year's. I kind of do. Depends on how many people are around and what's going on. But for me, it's really the solstice, right? And that's why That's why this is coming up like this, right? Okay. So it's really kind of showing us what we need to we need to remember these things. We need to take some of these lessons that we have learned into the next phase. Okay, one more. It's coming up in the next couple weeks. What do we need to know? What guidance do we need to hear? So funny. They basically warn us months, sometimes years in advance of what they're going to pull, right? And like, one of the things that they've been warning, and this is what I talked about in the beginning of the reading, was the movies that came out. And part of that, like that one movie, the Obama production, was about a cyber attack. Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum was warning that the next major incident or pandemic would be a cyber pandemic, right? So this is what they're trying to pull. They're trying to prime the people and acclimatize them, like I was saying, to this notion that there is this event coming and they're going to blame us. They're going to blame, well, in the States, they're going to blame the MAGA, the Trump Republicans, people that are Trump supporters, right? And part of that blame is connected to Russia. Okay, and then, we've seen this. We've seen them do this. It's like, man, like for many of us, we just don't trust this crap anymore, right? It is daunting. Like they're using the threat of war as the fear, right? And this is the other thing I was kind of picking up, was that they're gonna, like, they've already been doing it. It's like multi-pronged attacks, multi-pronged things. Like they will do 3 or 4 events at once and all over the world to really kind of jam up things, right? But like for us, the energy, because like what they're essentially trying to do is mobilize people. They're really trying, like on the deep state side, they're trying to get people's sort of interest back. They understand how easily distracted people are. Big part of that distraction right now is around the money system and the COVID thing, right? And just how much damage they've done. I guess the talk around the inflation, holding back on this money for Ukraine is kind of a part of the deal, right? If they don't get their money, then they're gonna start something, right? They're gonna sort of go forward with that sort of idea, right? But it's like this acclimatizing people with the internet, with social media, big sort of big sort of understanding around how we're being spied on too. More information, way more. It keeps coming out more and more and more. They're going to pass a law in the States next year where they're basically going to be able to wiretap or listen in on every device, everything. And seeing that's the thing we need to be aware of. We need to speak out about it because they can't get away with it, right? In which they're not. But if we don't become active now, then and speak out, or they will. They really are tanking the economy, man. This kind of notion of like taking the money out of people's pockets to do all of these other things, but then your world is completely falling apart, right? And what does that show people? It's to keep us totally hooked to their system, to keep us dependent. And the key out of that is to strike chords of independence in your life, however you can, because that energy is what sort of is transmitted outwards. Because that's what we're talking about. It's like the transmission of energy and how that has such an influence. It's amazing, right? So that's a big one, because it's like they're not going to get away with their plans. And we have to have our own kind of dreams and goals and plans for the future. Okay. And that's sort of what this is talking about. It's just like getting into this motion of activation, connection, making things happen. We are here to experience like joy and love as well, and to live in that. to be in that, not just suffering. Often it's both. That's part of the lesson of human existence, right? But we're totally stuck on the negative part, like society in many ways. Many of us aren't. And that's kind of what this is talking about, is like sort of superseding and transforming this energy that we're sort of looking at through that recognition and the living of that path of love, the path of joy, the path of actualizing what is within us, right? But see, it has to come from that healthy place, right? Where everything is in balance and not distorted, right? And this is really a big part of it, okay? Yeah, I think what's happening with a lot of people is you'll find yourself in groups of people, and I get it, not everybody's feeling this, not everybody's so grounded and like down to earth and can kind of see things, but some of us kind of have to be the voice of reason around people. Even if it's not even the voice of reason, it's more about holding that energy down and being that grounded energy source. But like, it's like almost like just sort of informing people not to get caught up in all of this, just to wait and see. You'll see. Something's going to happen. They're going to try to trick us again. And if we're aware of it, they're not going to get away with it. It's that simple, right? And the more that they censor people and shut people down, then yeah, they do get away with it. Right? So that's part of that dialogue. Yeah, and I think some of us too are going to be put into some positions where, we have, be there for people that have experienced a lot of loss, because there is a lot of loss. A lot of people passed last year. A lot of people passed in the last couple of years. There's a lot of damage that's been done. And the healing of the heart is what is sort of what this is talking about, but what is needed, right? And some of us are going to be put into those positions. I know that. It's really about getting us sort of energized for the next year, though, right? And for us at home and people that are kind of tuned into this, not to get caught up in the division that's there, and just sort of maintain and continue on and call out how the division is purposeful, and research if you don't know fully like particulars, okay? But it's more about getting the dialogue going and being sort of being more grounded for people rather than sort of playing into the frenetic and chaotic energy right now. Okay, everybody, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed. So please leave a like and subscribe. And wherever you are, I hope you're having a wonderful time. And we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.